What is going on, everybody? Depraved Slasher here, and we're here with something a little different than normal.
Time for something a little different.
I'm Depraved.
I'm Hellcat.
And together we are
HellaDepraved.
Alright, so for those of you that don't know, I'm on a song. I did a thing.
He did a thing.
I did a thing. IzApxcalypse reached out to me about a month ago and was like, hey, homie, I want you on the next Funhouse. Here's the beat.
Which is great.
Right.
Fabulous.
So, for those of you that don't know, the Funhouse series is a series of Iz songs. Think of it as kind of like the Ill Mind of Hops and Tracks, just not like once a year. It's like once every couple of months.
Right.
Hobson does it every year on his birthday, or at least he used to. I think he's done with it now.
And a little bit more horrorcore.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was inspired by the Firefly Funhouse that they used to do on WWE.
Okay.
With Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. But anyways, so he asked me to be on it. He sent me the beat. The night he sent me the beat, I was at work. And I downloaded it onto my phone. I stepped outside, put on my headphones, and I was jumping around like a madman.
Yeah.
I was excited. I was like, oh, we're going to fuck some shit up.
And here you have it.
And I kind of want to walk you guys through the process of how I write verses. And show you what kind of double entendres there are, if there are any, which there are. There's actually like a triple one on here.
Right.
And just the thought process that goes into writing from a horror fan's perspective, I guess.
Right. Well, and also a little bit of nerd.
And
from both of you.
And yeah, explain my verse. We're gonna play through Iz's because Iz's verse actually has a lot to do with my verse.
Right.
So right out the gate, the first thing I do when somebody asks me for a feature, typically, unless it is a cipher feature, which I have been on, which those aren't out yet.
Right.
They will be eventually. But one of the things I do is I will listen through the person that asked me for a feature. I will listen through their part a few times to get an idea of what it is they're going for and try and play off of that, because nothing's more disjointing to me musically than when somebody asks somebody to get onto a feature and then they just write their verse and the feature has nothing to do with the song.
Yeah.
Unless it's one of those type of songs where there's not really a point.
Like a cipher. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to let you guys hear through IzApxcalypse's verse, and then I will pause it going into
yours,
my verse, and we will talk some more there. So let's go ahead and hear out Iz here.
They gon' hate on me for being different and beyond the norm, cause I'm too real for it. We could talk about the morgue, you still ain't built for it. I dare you to bring a horde, watch them all get chills from this. Don't go living by the sword, cause you'll get killed for it. We gon' slash them up, break down the bodies into portions. We cut from a cloth that cut up and cut through your organs. Ain't kicking the door yet and already got me unhinged. Fuck this, I gotta be less moral and be morbid. Lot of laughter until I put an S in front of it. Said I got a worm like a Zodiac killer, even though I'm a Gemini, there's no other is.
For those of you wondering, he said laughter until you put an S in front of it, because
slaughter.
Laughter with S in front of it becomes slaughter.
Slaughter.
A lot of people didn't understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Part.
Wow.
You could get baked for real. Blood in the apron, I don't really need the oven mitts. This is the way for real, but don't get it fucked up. It ain't no Uganda knuckle shit.
So the Uganda Knuckles, which I don't know if you do that reference.
I didn't.
It is the Uganda meme that's online of Knuckles. You remember Knuckles from Sonic?
Mm-hmm.
He's the red echidna.
Yeah.
It is the derpy looking one that's always like, do you know the way?
Oh, okay.
That is the Uganda Knuckles.
Echidnas are so cute.
Meme reference.
They're so cute.
Blood in the apron, I don't really need the oven mitts. This is the way for real, but don't get it fucked up. It ain't no Uganda knuckle shit. We both talk our shit, but it's different here for us, cause there's levels to what we say. You got limited characters. Don't give a fuck about hearsay. If the shoe fit, bitch, wear it then. I'm not going back and forth with any keyboard Karens. And I find it funny how all these social networks and computers got these brand new ass motherfuckers acting brand newer. We eclipse them all, don't matter. Could be solar, could be lunar. We some mutants, but we ain't come from the sewers.
Alright, so before we get into the chorus, so one of the things that happened during the making of this song, you're going to notice when I go into my verse, my first 4 to 8 bars mirror Iz's 4 to 8 bars, and that's actually something that came to me 2 to 3 days into writing. So I kept trying to write, and I didn't know how to start it off and make it sound good,
and continue with the theme.
And continue with the theme. So I was like, listening to his verse, and all of a sudden I was like, I've got a great idea. I will mirror what he does, but flip it to make it more me.
Right.
So you're going to notice when I come in that's what happens. Now, in order for that to happen, I also had to hit IzApxcalypse and be like, yo, I need you to cut off the second part of the second chorus, or the second half of the second chorus, or of the first chorus is what I said. At a certain point, I'll get back with you and let you know. After I wrote my part, I hit him back, and he was actually in the process of working on it. And I was like, hey, I feel like the best place for this to be cut off is at this point. And he's like, that's funny, because that's where I just cut it off.
Cut it off.
He's like, I had the same idea. And that's, when things like that happen,
it works out.
you know that there's some mental connection there.
Well, and you're going to come out with a vibe track.
Right.
Tell they all hate it, fuck 'em all. They gon' hate us just for being different. We don't never fall, we just know how to evolve. And unlike most, we never try to blend in. I could tell they all hate it, fuck 'em all. They gon' hate us just for being different. We don't never fall, we just know how to evolve.
They gon' hate on me for talking to them from beyond the board, cause they too still for it.
Alright, so straight out the gate, I say, they gonna hate on me for talking to them from beyond the board because they too still for it. Referencing that I have to talk to them through a Ouija board because they're dead. Because they're too still to talk to me face to face.
They gon' hate on me for talking to them from beyond the board, cause they too still for it. I welcome you to the morgue, your family fell for it. Raise the dead and bring the horde, we go Michael Thrill for it. Found you laying by the shore, guess you got killed for it.
Alright, so after I say that, I say, because he had said something along the lines of filling up a morgue.
Right.
And then I said I would like to welcome y'all to the morgue. And then I say your family fill for it, as in like your family is fill for the morgue, like I'm going to slaughter your family.
Right.
And then I said raise the dead and bring the horde, because he said something along the lines of bring the horde. So I said the same thing, except I said raise the dead and bring the horde. We go Michael Thrill for it, because Michael Jackson's Thriller's full of zombies. Which, fun note, I was actually thinking of video ideas, and it would have been cool at this point for like people to set up on the morgue tables.
And do the
and then
motion.
While they're sitting there, I would do a little shimmy from the Thriller video, and then clap. And like, it was just some fun shit that I thought of. But no, so that was what that reference is. And then the end of it says, I guess they found you laying by the shore. Or no, they found you laying by the shore. Guess you got killed for it. And I said that because he ended his part like that with,
Don't go
live by the sword, you'll get killed for it.
Yeah.
And then I'm responding with, I guess you got killed for it.
Yeah. You didn't pay attention.
You didn't pay attention.
Did ya?
And bring the horde, we go Michael Thrill for it. Found you laying by the shore, guess you got killed for it. I see you fit the description, you say you can handle the heat, and then you run from the friction.
So that part I love, because I purposely went with friction, knowing people were going to think I was going to go with kitchen. Because a very common rookie mistake with new artists is using lines that everyone knows that's going to happen.
Right.
So it was kind of a little bit of a setup
and then
and hopefully surprise, as opposed to
which
going
you did.
with...
There were a couple people that
Right.
reacted, that mentioned it, and they're like, whoa, I'm so glad you went with that.
Right. Because again, friction makes heat. So, and it's like as soon as things start to have some friction, as soon as things start to rub the wrong way.
Well, and friction is also, it can be
run.
a negative in terms of rubs you the wrong way sort of thing. So yeah.
Right.
I see you fit the description, you say you can handle the heat, and then you run from the friction. You claim love for the peace, it's the Konami Code for munitions. I'm saying it's a reach, you just constant contradictions, it's funny.
Now that is my favorite bar in the entire song. Which is funny because I accidentally came across that bar. I wrote it originally almost 8 months ago.
I remembered it, but yeah, you had put it out on Twitterverse, like, if any of my buds want to use this, and nobody...
Right, so there was a period of time, roughly along the line, around the time, when the Screw had put out a cipher. It was like the Takeover cipher. Or it wasn't the Takeover cipher, it was the Worldwide cipher.
Right, okay.
Which I did enjoy for the most part. There were some verses I was not a big fan of. And some people did some things I wasn't a fan of, but as a whole, it's something I could listen to. But then a lot of the homies got together and put together the Worldwide Cypher Takeover.
Right.
Which a lot of their verses, this was also around the same time they were blaming a lot of people from the Worldwide Cypher for having fake gun bars.
That's true.
So I had come up with this line, and what's funny is I actually did some research into the line to see how far it was actually taken. So the line originally was written along the lines of something about you guys writing fake gun bars like you use the Konami Code for ammunition. And then it ends with, but really all I see is a constant contradiction.
Right.
Now, syllable for syllable, obviously when I wrote it, I wasn't thinking of anything like that. And I posted it on Twitter and was like, anybody that wants to use this can use it. I was like, can anybody tell me where all the doubles and triples are? Nobody could figure it all out. And what's funny is when I wrote it, I even did some research to see how things actually lined up. And it's one of those bars that just kind of fall into place. You don't necessarily even mean it to. Now, I had to change it for syllables a little bit and things like that to fit here. But basically, the bar comes from... it's like you use the Konami Code for munitions, because anybody that's grew up playing video games, Konami, which was a video game making company, has something called the Konami Code, which they put in almost every one of their video games. It's and honestly, I've heard different variations of the code, but it's typically like up, down, left, right, BA, BA, start.
Right.
Some games actually used it but doubled it up, so it'd be up, up, down, down, left, left, right, right, or left, right, left, right.
Right.
A, B, A, B, B, A, B, A, start, or whatever. But that was what the code was, and depending on the game, depending on what it did, sometimes it turned on God mode, which meant you couldn't be killed. Sometimes it gave you infinite ammunition and things like that. So the Konami Code for munitions is just a play on ammunition because I had to make the syllables fit. But then it turns around and says, it's funny, or you're just a constant contradiction is how the bar ends, which is kind of a almost quadruple in and of itself. Well, triple at least. Contradiction, just in general, being it's a contradiction means you're not staying true to who you actually are.
Right.
But Contra is the name of a Konami video game. And diction is the act of writing. So contradiction, writing video game bars, plays into all that.
The Konami Code. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of my most proud moments in a bar
and
ever.
it just sort of fell into
and
place.
it fell into place. It wasn't even like I went into it to write it the way it came out.
Right.
But after I started looking at it, I was like, this is fire.
This is nice.
This is fire.
This is nice.
It's the Konami Code for munitions. I'm saying it's a reach. You just constant contradictions. It's funny. You bow your head and then you give your soul to me, then hit the ground running when I'm coming to collect a fee. Should've double checked before you dotted I's and crossed some T's. Now I gotta slaughter you to get what's mine. Can't you see?
All right. So at this point, this was another bar I posted on Twitter. I think it was like almost 2 weeks before Iz hit me up. And I just threw it out there, and I was like, one day you may see me put this in a song, and I did.
And it's
And like this was before Iz hit me up, but it was the line of, it's funny how you give your soul to me and then hit the ground running when I'm coming to collect the fee. Basically, it's a play on words saying that I am Satan because people sell their soul to Satan. And you always hear about people trying to get out of that contract.
always.
And in horror movies, it just never works out.
Right.
Usually.
And they do actually hit the ground when they're running.
Right. So that's where the play on words came from. Now, again, I switched it up a little bit to fit the flow and the scheme of things. Not much. But I did indeed use it. And, of course, the dotting I's, crossing T's is something you usually, when you're double-checking...
You're told to double-check your work before you turn it in or before you sign a contract, and especially in contract signing and you're selling your soul to the devil, you might want to check.
Right. So this was just saying, it was basically saying while you're double-checking, you should have double-checked what the contract has said. I was originally, when writing this, was going to switch it into using some sort of way to include, like, fine print in the bars.
No, I think this worked perfectly.
In the end route, it just didn't fit.
I mean, it means the same thing, too, so I like it.
Right.
Double check before you dotted I's and cross some T's. Now I gotta slaughter you to get what's mine. Can't you see? Can't you see? You can run all you want till you trip and you fall. It's like you're just a stumbling drunk. Now you're dead in the trunk. I already told you that your soul was mine. You fucking
I could
punk.
tell they all.
That's actually going to be the end of the song. I won't let it
Right.
play out again. Honestly, that's all actually just 100% just self-explanatory. Just sticking with the horrorcore thing.
Although using the slaughter like word again is a nice mirrored effect back to is using laughter with an S.
Right.
So I mean it does wrap it up kind of nicely.
Right. So there was that. That was actually something I didn't even intend. That was something that Alphabite pointed out when he was going over it. He'd brought it up and I was like, oh, I never thought of that. I guess that works. Now, so the way I usually go into writing is actually, I don't know how other people write. I really don't. I will always write on pen and paper, with pen and paper, though. I cannot stand technology when it comes to writing things out, unless it's writing a book. Then my ass is going to use a computer because it's a lot easier than me writing because my hands cramp.
My hands cramp. I have binders after binders after binders of a book I'm working on because I lose my creative flow. I cannot sit down, like I can type it out afterwards and do all the editing that way. And honestly, when I edit, if it's long edits, not just grammatical crap, if it's long edits, I have to print it out double spaced and write, like you'll see typed pages where I have front and back scribbled all. It's just like I just can't continue the creative process. I may get out a sentence.
Give me 1 second, baby. All right, continue.
I don't remember what I was saying.
You were talking about staying in a flow.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'll get the original sentence that I had thought of written out, and then it just sort of ends. Like, if for some reason having the connection of pen to paper, I can continue for several pages. I don't know. Maybe it's because writing comes naturally, like pen and paper, whereas I have to think about typing. Or maybe it's because I lose sight of what's above it because, you know, the shifting of the page as I'm writing. I have no idea.
But no, so when I was writing this, there's some other things that went into it too. I'm actually going to go back just a smidge because there was one part that just stylistically I changed. I didn't change what I said.
Right.
But I did change how I said it from the start to the finished draft.
You dotted I's and crossed some T's. Now I got there's constant contradictions. It's funny. You bow your head and then you give your soul to me, then hit the ground running when I'm coming to collect the fee.
That was it. So originally I said hit the ground running hit the ground running when I'm coming to collect the fee.
Okay.
And then I stopped, and when I was rapping it out loud while having the headphones on and going over it, I was like, I actually liked the idea of putting that pause and then being like, to collect the fee.
Right.
Instead of just making it one fluid go. And it was just a stylistic choice. A lot of artists that I grew up listening to, T.I., Eminem, people like that, they all did stuff like that. Not all the time.
Little pauses, yeah.
But there would be little pauses to split up, and you just try and get like 3 syllables out on one downbeat instead of just trying to spread it out between 3 downbeats.
Well,
which, again, I feel like it's again one of those things where it's like not everybody can do that. A lot of people can. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's anything special. But especially a lot of newer people, like I'm in my mid-30s. This is the 3rd thing I've ever written. And there's still some delivery things that I'm working on as well to get down to be me. But like I feel like people are afraid to experiment stylistically
with as well, yeah.
Because they're still struggling to fit everything they want to say within a certain syllable range.
Right.
That I don't have a problem to. Like I know when I hear something that I do sounds like complete shit.
You're like, that's not gonna work.
And I will scrap it and redo it, or try and find a way to cut out some syllables, see if there's things that I can change to make fit.
Right.
One of the things I don't focus on is trying to hit the multi-syllable rhyme scheme.
Right.
It happens sometimes, and it sounds cool when I do it, but sometimes I feel like people focus so much more on hitting the multi-syllable rhyme scheme that they end up putting in rhymes that don't make sense because of it.
Right. You lose track of the message content, yeah.
So basically what I do when writing a verse, and this is just a prime example, I took two things that I wrote on Twitter, which I've wanted to use in songs before, but sometimes they just didn't fit that style.
Right.
But they definitely fit here. And basically what I'll do is I'll write a verse and then start cutting things out, changing up the way things are said, moving things around until it gets to a point where I feel like it sounds good.
Right.
And I feel like that's where a lot of people struggle.
People don't like to edit.
Well, it's not even so much editing. I feel like people struggle with not being able to hear if something sounds good or not.
I think it's a bit of both. Because I know, like, just solely from the side of writing, without even trying to fit it to music, that a lot of forums and everything, they are so, maybe not in love, that's maybe not the right term, but, like, they're so attached to what they wrote that they have a very hard time scrapping any of it.
Right. And a prime example, there's been so many people, and I love everyone that we react to. Except for one person that thought he would find it cool to bitch and complain that I said he sounded muffled. But, and a lot of people take the criticisms we give out fairly. Because I don't
try to be constructive.
We try to be constructive with it. I will never just be like, yo, you're trash. Get the fuck out of here. But one of the things that a lot of people do, especially starting off in hip-hop, a lot of times they'll try to rush a lot into a small part because it's like they have a point that they want to make and they're more worried about just making the last two words rhyme, and they just fill a bunch of what sounds like a jumbled mess and rush through it to try and get to that end rhyme and to have it hit that same beat so that it sounds good that way. But they don't stop to think about that jumbled mess that they just squished in and crammed into that one spot.
Still has to fit the beat that you're on.
Makes it sound not good.
Right.
So that's like, I've probably rapped this verse 60, 70 times. Before I got to a point where I was like, okay, stylistically, I have things in place where I want them. I have the exact words that I want to say. And then even recording, I record in 4-bar sets. That's actually something I learned from, I believe it was Gats.
I'm pretty sure it was Gats, yeah.
But I recorded in 4-bar sets so that I could punch in, not be sound like I'm out of breath.
Breath control. It's for a whole bunch of reasons, but yeah.
Right. And I also still try to write in a way, though, that, like, if I had a chance, I could still go out and perform it.
Right.
I'm not going to be walking around a lot. I'm a smoker.
Not jumping up and down, right?
But I still
write. For
write.
recording purposes, it sounds better.
Right.
Yeah.
So I try to stick to doing that. And again, there's still some delivery things I know I can work on. I didn't want to wait 6 months for me to get all this ironed out, though.
Everything, like, perfect. Especially since both of us tend to be a little on the OCD perfectionist side of things, so.
Right. And to be honest, the real winner in all of this was Banksy.
Fucking fantastic.
Hands down. So, especially for my verse. Now, he didn't do a whole lot to change Iz's verse, because Iz kind of already had his ad-libs in and the things that he did, and Banksy just made sure they sounded right with the beat. He actually added several ad-libs into my side, because I don't do ad-libs. I'm not to that point yet where I feel comfortable doing them.
Right.
It sounds really weird standing in a mic and being like,
Please never add those as your ad-libs in particular.
Just examples.
Yo.
So, like,
we'll
and
Ralph
for me,
to do your ad-libs if you ever need any of those.
Well, and then for me, that's the hardest part of doing a song is putting ad-libs in, because again, I did grow up in a time where not everybody put in ad-libs all the time.
Right.
So I never found them as being absolutely necessary.
And you're like, I'm just not sure where I...
And I don't know what to say when.
Right.
Although and I would rather
evil
have
laughter is great.
I would rather have now the evil laughter stuff like that. I'm 100% happy he did throw. Honestly, everything he did, I'm happy.
And you have done evil laughter before. I was referring back to the Like That Dwayne.
Right, but it wasn't.
It's not technically
demonic.
an ad lib. I'm just saying no, it wasn't. It didn't have the filters on it or anything. But I'm saying like you have done that before. So the evil laughter, we know where that should be placed.
Right. But yeah, he did the evil laughter. He actually recorded that himself, threw that in
great.
There. He threw on the demonic voice sounds,
right.
which was really cool. And I didn't even ask him to.
Yeah, and there's a couple other places that he actually added ad libs, which are fantastic. Like,
and again, he's the real winner in that. Otherwise, it would not have had all that stuff, which I do feel like made my verse even better than what it was.
Well,
and I don't think my verse was great by any means. It's not a big head thing.
And also, it equaled out with the stuff that Iz had done, so it felt
right.
it felt well balanced.
Right. So again, big shout out to Banksy for doing that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that's what I do. I write, I cram it all together, and then I take things out.
Then you say absolutely not.
Rearrange words. And honestly, there's still several things I have ideas for really cool bars that still just have not fit a situation yet that I can't wait to put in.
Now, I just want to point out, you mentioned delivery-wise that you're still working on finding your sound and everything. But I wanted to point it out because...
Well, I'm glad you said that. So that was actually something else I wanted to say, and I almost forgot about it completely. So
you mentioned T.I., so I was...
Right. One thing I also do completely different. Now, I do write horrorcore most of the time.
I call it horrorcore light because it's missing a shit ton of the gore, but yeah.
Again, reason being, I love horror. But my big problem with horrorcore in general is honestly the same problem a lot of other people have with horrorcore. It always comes off as overly aggressive, like you're yelling at people.
Right.
And growing up, one of my biggest inspirations was T.I.
Right.
In terms of just music. I love T.I.'s laid back,
swaggy.
Like, he did a song with Justin Timberlake where he's like, hey, shorty cool as a fan on the loo once again, but he still has fans from Peru to Japan. Hey, listen, baby, I don't want to ruin your plans, but you got a man, try to lose it if you can. And it's just one of the things, he's real laid back and just kind of swaggy with it. And I was like, I want to hear somebody do horror like that.
Right.
To where it's almost just even creepier that somebody's talking about stabbing you, but they're not even
so
like,
cool
it's not even in a threatening way.
They don't faze you. Yeah.
It's just like, just to let
another
you know,
day on the job.
this is what's going to happen. And
right. And that is what that is, you know? Have a Bahama mama.
Right.
We're good. I agree, because, again, people are always like, oh, no, he was so normal. And it's like, yeah, that's why his house smelled like.
I had two people who did check it out. They're like, I wish you were a little more aggressive. And actually, that was the opposite of what I was going for. I was going for the laid back. Now, when I said that to, again, it was Alphabite.
Alphabite actually had phrased his way of saying it a little different.
Right.
Which was, I don't know what you were going for stylistically. Like, if this was the swaggy thing you were going for, you nailed it. But me personally, I would have said this place, and this place. Like, end it with a little bit more oomph. And it was just a couple places. The other people, they weren't phrased too much differently. It wasn't like, oh my God, you should have been aggressive. It was like, I feel like you set yourself up for these places. And they were actually the same places that Alphabite had. So it was basically, hey, you set yourself up so perfectly. We feel like the end of that phrase should have been aggressive. So that's why we wanted to, I wanted to make sure that this was said.
No, I was going for 100% laid back in the way that I said things.
Right.
And again, that was just something I've always thought. I feel people would actually enjoy horrorcore more if like, it sounded wavy.
And it's a vibe. You're like, what are you listening to? Oh, don't worry. Stabbing and maiming, but it sounds amazing. Just lean with it, you know? No, I think it's a incredible concept because
swing with it, chop.
Right?
Swing with it,
exactly.
chop with it.
I think it's a great concept because again, you always hear people when a serial killer is or a mass murder or something has happened. They're like, "Oh, he looked so normal." And it's like that is the creepy thing. That is that a lot of people who are seriously psychopathic blend.
Right.
So, you know, you're gonna get your club demons. It's gonna happen.
Now, also at the end of the day, it's not to say that I'm always just going to do horrorcore. At some point, a buddy will hit me up, I'm sure, and be like, "Hey, would love to have you on the song, but is there any way you could not stab 15 people in this song? I would really love if you were just you." But that is me now.
No. Like, yeah, I was just gonna. No, we need something introspective and personal, and then you might just stab one person.
Right.
Yeah.
It also depends on... Again, it depends 100% on the type of song.
Right.
I have some idea for a couple of nerdcore songs I would still love to do.
Right.
Me and Iz are already talking about doing a Marvel-based nerdcore song.
I know. He told me about that, and I was like...
that was actually one of my...
his version of What Ifs.
That was one of my complaints with how he ended his first verse. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't know this. Because I don't think I'd brought it up. But because I was actually going to try and incorporate it into mine to kind of continue mirroring what he did.
teenage.
But he says something at the very end of his verse where he says, we're some mutants, but we don't come from the sewers, which is actually technically in reference to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But that's not what I thought of first. What I thought of first were the mutants in Marvel that lived in the sewers called the Morlocks.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, I guess it could be either.
And I was actually thinking it would have been cool for him to tie that into a bar saying somebody should have more locks on their doors and then go into the sewer scheme.
All right.
And he didn't. And I was like, oh, he missed out on the Morlock scheme. That would have been dope.
Me down.
But I still love the Ninja Turtle reference.
Right.
So, I mean, it's...
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and that doesn't mean that you are not ever going to add some aggressive delivery on somewhere.
Oh, no. So, 100%. So, I've done a Like That verse, which, again, that was very laid back as well.
It was. It was good.
Dwayne actually really liked it. It just...
like
right. Dwayne actually told me, he's like, I really liked it, but I had no clue what the fuck you were talking about because, again, it's all horror.
Right.
And it just...
Well, it just didn't fit the vibe of what
It did not
was
fit
doing,
the vibe of the song at all.
Yeah.
Which
I
was going for.
Yeah, it was fun, though.
Was to not fit the vibe of the song. But it was fun to do. That was the first thing I ever wrote and recorded. And then I did a verse for Athena on a cipher that never came out.
Right.
But I think she's still going to try and put together who did send in their verses and just put that out anyways.
Right.
And then I did that song with Iz. Before this, it was the Cult Leaders remix.
Right.
The mixing on that was not great. Iz had me extremely loud compared to him.
And initially offbeat.
And a little more offbeat.
And that was the mixing, not
right.
the recording, yeah.
And so that's actually one of the things I told her, like, we're going to have somebody actually mix this. Because, A, I think it would make him sound a lot better.
Right.
He sounds great as is. Do not get me wrong.
Oh, no.
Not a slight at all.
Incredibly talented, yeah.
But having a more professional mix definitely makes everything sound more balanced. Which is why we got Banksy to do this. But we did that. I actually enjoy personally that verse more than this one. Just in terms of all the references I pulled from.
The Cult Leader verse was fun, yeah.
But a lot of people didn't like it because it was very weird. I will admit that. It was very weird.
I gave you some of the references, so I didn't think it was particularly weird.
But we had a lot of fun with that. And then I also wrote a verse for Athena again
that will be released.
That's supposed to be on her album.
Right.
That one specifically I did get very aggressive on.
For reasons.
Because it fit the tone of what I was going for.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think there's a bar in there somewhere about me choking somebody while they're live on their OnlyFans.
No, so
it was.
I mean,
it was
again, like it's gonna depend on the theme, the content, the song, whatnot. But yeah, the TI vibe was what you were going for.
Right. And then there's this. There's gonna be more to come, homies. I already know. I'll work with me and Iz already talked about, like I said, putting together an EP or an album. It's probably not gonna come as soon as him and I would like. Because we were talking about having it done by the end of this year. It's probably not going to happen this year.
Not with the move. And I mean, it might, but not with
we got to move. It takes me like 2 weeks to write a verse because I am way too OCD when it comes to writing to be able to just settle.
Well, plus, like you said, you haven't been doing it that long.
Right.
And then with your work schedule and everything, even if you do get the verse written, you got to have the time to actually record it here. And it's a thing, guys.
Right.
So.
And yeah.
Yeah. I thought this was great fun. Then again, I love horrorcore. Like, I like the references. I love this kind of
one thing I do know for sure, Athena and Rev are putting together another cipher that I am going to be on. I'm just waiting for them to send me the beat.
Right.
So I know that's happening. And I know all the people that are going to be on it. It's actually going to be pretty fire. And then... That's all I've got lined up.
No, and then.
One of the things I do know, so like anybody that are actually like my homies, like if Dwayne, Gats, Postcard, somebody along those lines is Scheme or anybody ever came to me and was like, hey, could you throw together a verse? 100% I will do it and not charge anybody. Again, I do this shit for fun.
Right.
It's a hobby. It's not like I am taking it seriously at all.
Well, I mean, you're taking it seriously in that you're giving them the best content you can, but
Right.
yeah, you're not. This
I'm not
is not
taking
going to
the-
feed us.
Yeah, it's I'm not taking it seriously in a business sense.
Yeah.
It's literally just for fun. And yeah. I mean, if Koofy would like hit me up, or like if Alpha Bite,
I want to
or-
hear Koofy do horrorcore with you.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
He would be scary. But you know what? He would make a fabulous Candyman.
He would.
He would make a fabulous Candyman. And I'm not just saying that because, he's African American. I'm saying that because
he's got that
reminds me of... Yeah, exactly. He reminds me of...
He's just got a very deep, almost Tony Todd-esque voice.
Yeah, that's...
Except raspier.
That's exactly what it is. I wonder if he likes bees.
Bees in the trap.
Oh,
No. Sorry. You started it. Anyways.
That's great.
That's going to cut it off here. I know this was a longer breakdown than I even intended. I had to pee at one point.
Right.
I'm glad I got that out the way. You were talking in one of your run-on sentences, and I'm just like, end somewhere where I can pause it. End it where I can pause it.
I was not. I hadn't even, mostly begun that sentence.
No, but you did one of your weird pauses after a sentence that made me think you were almost done, and then you picked back up into another
You realize you do the same thing, right?
I know.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I'm not complaining by any means.
It's just...
I love it, because I do it. So you understand. I just did it there.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So that being said, if you guys like the video, slash that like button. I'll probably do these for all the verses I do for people, just so, and I will actually record them. Now, the last time I did this was for the Like Me verse, but I did that live.
Now, the thing is, now that you've kind of explained your writing process and everything, not all of these will be this long.
Right.
He just, this is the first time, I think, in a reaction video, at least, you've broken down how.
Right. All right, so with that being said, if you guys liked the video, slash that like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, comment down below. What did you think of my verse? Of the song in general?
Right.
It's not to take anything away from Iz fucking killed it.
Yeah.
Killed it. He laughed with an S in front of it.
It was great.
Laughter? Yeah. Laughter with an S. Anyways. Also, comment down below if there's anything else you guys want to see react to. Check the description below for all the things.
Push our buttons. Come join us on our other social media platforms, mostly Twitter if you want a quicker response.
With that being said, we love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Cannot wait to see you, the brave people, later.